do it. Like, figure out whether it's, starting a company or traveling for a year, whatever it may be. I would figure out what it's going to take, how much money you'll need, what you'll need specifically to do it. Hold yourself to a budget or whatever you need to do to accomplish that specific thing that'll make you happy.
This is the How to Quit Working Show. Jeff Steinman believes entrepreneurship is the only true path to freedom. That's why he created the How to Quit Working Show, where you'll hear stories, insights, and inspiration from lifestyle fanatics who left their soul-sucking 9-to-5 job forever. Now, here's your host, author, entrepreneur, and ultimate lifestyle fanatic, Jeff Steinman.
Hello and welcome to the How to Quit Working Show. Today we're going to talk to Fernando Campos, who is the founder of a company called TalkWigg. It's a very different kind of an e-commerce company, and he's just done a brilliant job of figuring out who his customer is and how exactly to serve them through his company. And he's got some really great lessons that he's going to share on the show today. Now, before we get into that, I want to remind you, I think you probably know this, but you may not have checked it out yet. But the How to Quit Working Circle over on Facebook is a great place to continue this conversation after the show. So go to howtoquitworking.com/group, and that's going to shoot you on over to the How to Quit Working Circle on Facebook, and just click join group, and we'll get your request approved as soon as we possibly can. And then introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm out there. The How to Quit Working coach, Heather Osgood, is also out there, and a lot of folks just like yourself who are ready to quit their job and start a business. So go out there, join in the conversation. It's a blast. We have a lot of fun out there. And now, without any further ado, let's talk to Fernando Campos, the founder of TalkWigg.com. Fernando, welcome to the How to Quit Working Show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm glad to have you here because you're going to talk a little bit about this really nice, cushy job that you had. Well, I don't know if it was cushy. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you did say that you were buying some nice dinners and you were having all the luxuries of life, and then you left it to start your own company. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing before and what made you decide to give up such a great life.
Yeah, I had an amazing role. In a lot of ways, it was cushy. So I was actually previously the head of sales at a venture-backed company called ePerk. Okay. And basically, I was there for just under 2 years, seeing the company grow from zero revenue to 7-figure run rate in less than those 2 years. And it was an amazing experience. I was managing about 15 people. But at the end of the day, for me personally, one of the things that I've always wanted to do was, start a company. And I think that was a big part of the reason why I decided to join the startup industry, was to, learn from really smart, motivated people. And, at the end of the day, build the skills needed to start a successful company. And, I started talking to one of my best friends from college who had also kind of taken the plunge and moved into startups as well. And we were excited to work together. So we just started, I guess, bit the bullet, some might say.
Well, that's cool. So when you started working at ePerk, that was kind of a strategic decision. You said, okay, I want to do a startup, so maybe I should go work for one and kind of learn about this whole startup thing and how it works.
That's correct. I worked at a previous startup beforehand as well, called BetterWorks. I guess right out of school, worked in finance for almost 2 years, decided it wasn't really the path that I wanted to go down on. Took actually a huge pay cut at the time to lateral over to BetterWorks in 100% commissioned sales role. It was brutal. A phenomenal experience, just really having to hustle. Otherwise, you wouldn't get paid, right? Wow. And I was there for about a year. The company ended up not doing so well, so I ended up getting recruited to ePerk. And then, you're exactly right. I ended up joining a tiny team. It was I was the fifth person, including the founders at the time. I guess the second hired employee. And yeah, I mean, the reason being was I was being the first person in this specific role, like helping build the entire customer sales team and getting the company ready to having a product that we could actually sell.
Awesome. So tell us about the minute. What was the moment in time when you said, okay, I've always wanted to start my own company. I've got this friend. We've been talking about working together. What's the moment in time when you say, you know what, let's do this?
To starting a company?
Yeah.
So I would say, once I had a solid partner that I knew that I would be really excited to work with. I think the business partner that you end up choosing, I mean, they say it time and time again, but it couldn't be more true. But it's like a marriage, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, once you really know, like, all right, this is the guy or girl that I am willing to work with and like stick it out with, and bicker at times, but also be able to enjoy like the best of times with. Like, I think that's I was sold. I was ready to turn in my notice at that point.
Excellent. So you turn in your notice, then what?
I mean, so I think I had a kind of I guess an non-traditional way of, I guess transition period. Okay. So I gave.
I don't think there is a traditional way, actually.
I mean, that's probably actually pretty fair as well. I mean, basically I gave about 2 months notice, actually. So it was much longer to give AnyPerk, time to basically. Find a replacement and everything else, transition everything that I had built so far, and then but we actually turned in our notice before we actually had a completely solidified next move, which I think is most of the reason why it's kind of non-traditional. But we literally hit the ground running. I mean, we trapped ourselves in a cafe for, I don't know, maybe 15 hours a day, basically coming up with domain names. Luckily, my business partner, Nick Shum, had just thought of a pretty brilliant idea maybe a week before my last day. So we were able to kind of hit the ground running, specifically on TalkWigg, the first day that I was no longer employed by AnyPerk. Okay,
well, tell us a little bit about what does TalkWigg do?
Yeah, TalkWigg is basically a men's site where we men's e-commerce site where we focus on promoting brands that inspire a healthy and active lifestyle. So every type of product from like a standing desk to activewear apparel to supplements, anything that will encourage you to be healthier or kind of like that high performance lifestyle is what we would focus on. So a lot of for instance, apparel apparel brands that we work with are great products that you could wear out like running or to the gym, but then also they're professional enough or they look good enough that you could wear into the office and feel totally normal. Where in the past, like both of those kind of clothing items were very separate. We're focusing on a lot of great up-and-coming brands that kind of merge that.
Oh, excellent. Well, I see, I'm on the website right now, and I see a premium self-cleaning hydrophobic shirt. Now, self-cleaning. I'm all about that.
Yeah. We have a lot of kind of like the microbial type of like apparel that, is pretty phenomenal. At the end of the day, they have a ton of uses and a ton of functions, and it's just kind of the clothes of the future. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, cotton is just, it's cotton and it's fine and it does the job, but we're kind of focused on a specific male actually that at the end of the day wants a better fitting, better shirt.
Excellent, excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about what were kind of some of the early steps that you took to build this company out? Because I hear e-commerce, I'm thinking you got to have inventory, you got to set up a big, fancy, expensive website and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of making my head spin just thinking about it. So tell me a little bit about how did you kind of put those pieces in place and make that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we gave ourselves kind of about 30 days to launch the company. We didn't, we hadn't worked on it before we had left our companies, where a lot of people do kind of, kind of burn the midnight oil and start the company, after work hours or on weekends. So because we had kind of, I guess, that late start, we decided to basically shoot to launch this company within 30 days. And the specific reason why we set this 30-day kind of goal was that we realized that for the type of company that we were building, it fit really well in terms of Apple's demographic, the early adopters that are willing to invest in better products. And the more that we realized our audience was very, very similar. So what we decided we wanted to do was actually go a little bit more old school and actually flyer at the iPhone 6 launch.
Oh, interesting. And you say flyer as a verb, meaning you pass out flyers?
Exactly, with discount codes specifically for the people that were there at the stores, so we could just start building kind of word of mouth traffic, getting our initial set of users, and then just kind of seeing how things would went.
So this is interesting. You said, okay, we think that our customer is pretty similar or a subset of the Apple customer. So Correct. We're going to pass out flyers at the iPhone 6 launch.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. I think there's a lot to be learned there from that.
Yeah, I mean, Apple, of course, is one of the greatest companies to ever exist. I think they've done such an amazing job of creating this culture and this brand of people that love their products, need to have it on the first day. And because a lot of the products that we decide to feature are kind of up and coming brands, we thought that the Apple fans would therefore really resonate with kind of being the early adopters and wanting to try out these new products that we were focused on carrying.
Sure.
So yeah, in those 30 days, we took care of everything from coming up with a domain, evaluating the e-commerce platform that we're going to go with, selling the first few brands that we're going to, understood that we were just launching, selling them on the vision and getting them excited about what we were doing so that they would, take a risk on us. We also started generating a bunch of content. That's another really great aspect about TalkWigg, is that we generate a bunch of content specifically in our journal section that talks about everything from meditation to how to use a kettlebell, to all these different aspects about this kind of healthy and active lifestyle. So started generating content there, and then actually worked with a few developers to get the site up and running before kind of launch day.
Excellent. So what happened after you launched the website? How did things go initially?
So surprisingly, the flyers actually worked. Cool. Despite it being a little bit old school, we definitely started getting a lot of feedback. A lot of people were actually really excited about kind of what we were doing. And yeah, at the end of the day, talking to early potential customers is so crucial, I think, in the beginning, just from recommending us new products that we hadn't heard of yet or hadn't found yet, to giving us feedback specifically on the site and the pieces that they thought were confusing. And so we were constantly iterating. And then, kind of the funny part actually was my co-founder and I actually split up. So we went to different malls to flyer. We figured we'd cover more ground that way.
Sure.
And then So I actually ended up getting escorted out of one of the malls.
I was going to ask about that. Like, can you just do that?
So apparently at certain malls you can't.
I'll live and learn.
Yeah, it happens. But
did you at least get a stack of flyers out though first?
Yeah, so I did, and then I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit stubborn, so I was definitely a little bit discouraged, but decided to go to another mall and just continue. Right, so had this kind of strategy of like hiding behind this pillar, like, and then catching people as they were leaving, but like out of the line of sight, specifically for the security guard. And yeah, I mean, sure enough, I ended up getting rid of like all the remaining flyers at the second mall.
Cool.
But the funny thing was that it ended up getting picked up in an article by Inc. magazine as well. So like that ended up driving, I mean, exponentially more, much more traffic to the site, especially after the article as well.
What did Inc. magazine think was interesting about it?
I mean, I think it's kind of like the, inspirational story about like the things that people will do to start a company. You know what I mean? I think, in this day and age, especially with like the technology community, it's easy to kind of build, there's drag and drop technology. Like, you can hire a developer on Elance or Odesk, and it's easy to put something up a lot of the time. But like, how willing are you to kind of step out of your comfort zone and manually get those users, whether it's like, talking to people on the street or going door to door, whatever it is that like wherever you can find your specific audience. But like, if you're willing to take, those like steps to get your company where it needs to be.
Well, so tell us about what happened next. How did things progress after the initial launch in the Inc. magazine article?
Yeah, I mean, that was honestly a game changer for us. I mean, that was maybe day 3 or 4 of the company, like being live. Wow. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty lucky in that respect, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it was crucial. I mean, we got a huge influx of members, specifically to TalkWigg. We started getting brands that were interested in working with us. There was a few rewrites on the article, and yeah, I mean, I think it really kind of set the pace for ourselves into really naturally moving quickly, kind of learning from everything that we were doing. A lot of the time we were reaching out to all of those members and like asking them like about their experience, like, what products they wanted to see. We would basically break up each group of TalkWigg members into basically a class of about 100, and we'd send them individually, each one of them, an email specifically asking them about what they were sensitive to, whether it was like if it was more sensitive to price, product selection, free shipping, or like shipping time frame. And then we'd go with the next 100 users, and we would send them another question about like what they liked the most and what they liked the least about TalkWigg. And then we'd cohort the next 100, and then send them another question about feedback. But to make sure that like we would get the highest response rate possible, we would actually try to find one personalized sentence specifically for each one of those members. And that was really crucial. I mean, we got really detailed responses.
Like what's an example of a personalized sentence?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I noticed that you were a software engineer at this startup.
Okay, so you'd like go out and find their LinkedIn or their Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, I would use Reportive. So Reportive saved us a ton of time. But yeah, it's like, I noticed you work in the industry, or like, I noticed like, you live in San Francisco and there's like a ton of tech companies here. Whatever it may be that we could build some type of like commonality, or like, hey, this is why I think why I'm valuing your experience. Yeah. And then of course our signature would say like co-founder and everything else. So I think at the end of the day, like a lot of those people that had register their emails, really felt like, oh wow, this is rare for like the co-founder to personally email me asking for my feedback.
Yeah. So you're getting a little bit obsessed with knowing your customer.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, I think that was one of like the really big things that we spent time on, was understanding what the customer wants. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what we constantly are asking ourselves. Like, would we personally want to use this? Like, what else can we do to improve the experience? And and build that loyalty with the customer.
Amazing stuff. Now, I noticed the business model. This looks a little different than a typical e-commerce site, and one of the things that I noticed that kind of jumps out as I kind of click through here is I see that you have to log in to see the actual TalkWigg price on some of these items. It appears. Tell us a little bit about that's a little unique, and tell us a little bit about kind of why you made that decision and kind of how that all works.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for a lot of the brands that we work with them like in like a partnership with a featured sale. Okay. So it's basically a 2-week time period where we list their products at a discounted rate. And it's kind of like a value add specifically for our members, so the ones that do register like on TalkWigg. And so the price is only available to them. And I mean, it's to really benefit everybody. It benefits the members by providing them with kind of an exclusive rate that's specifically meant for them. But then also it protects the brands in a lot of ways by not having it publicly available that this is like a discounted rate. So we have this gate where you register, you become a member, and then you can see like what our rates are specifically for those featured sales. I got you.
Very cool stuff. Tell us a little bit about kind of like as you were starting the company, how did you fund it?
I mean, we were both pretty fortunate in our last roles, and we were able to save quite a bit that was able to basically seed the company. Okay. I mean, naturally, with like getting the influx of users from Inc. magazine and like a bunch of other kind of tricks that we did, we actually became profitable week 3. Yeah, I mean, honestly. It really, it was really, really long hours and everything else, but yeah, we were able to make it happen. So yeah, fortunately we were able to start breaking even then. And then, yeah, since then, now we've just been focused on like expanding and reinvesting into growing the company.
What do you think is the thing that made you profitable in 3 weeks?
That's a good question. I think it was having a really good understanding of what people wanted to buy. I think, we spent a bunch of time like really trying to understand that, like, testing different types of products, different price ranges for the products, and then actively seeking out feedback specifically from those members, especially the most active ones. And they were constantly saying like, "Hey, I love this product," or "Hey, you should check these guys out." Some were making introductions to their friends' companies that they thought would be a good fit, and like naturally, it was just like almost like crowdsourcing in a way, where we were specifically, just getting tons and tons of great feedback. And then once you start really defining your audience, and then you understand, like, I would be so excited because I know, like, hey, this product, I'm just counting down the days till we launch it because I know it's going to do super well. And sure enough, like, the sale would go well, and then we'd be focused on the next one as well.
So it seems like earlier I think I kind of joked that you were a little bit obsessed with understanding your customer, but it sounds like that's really been the secret to the success that you've had. And the question I want to ask you, though, is do you ever get feedback and you have to set, like, from a customer or a registered user, and you have to say, you know what, thanks for that feedback, but that's just not the direction that we're going?
Oh, all the time. All the time. Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge, right? Where you have you solicit feedback, and some of the times they'll have, I don't know, something crazy idea. I can't even think of one off the top of my head right now, but it's just something that'll change the direction of the company, or that it won't, that it might be, it's a nice to have, but it's not really material. It's not going to make a huge difference specifically to the company right now. I don't know, maybe changing the way a button looks, right? And for my co-founder and I, we're not technical, so we have to hire, a contract developer for the most part when we want to do kind of major changes to the site. And so I think for us, we constantly weigh, like, with, a suggestion that either we come up with ourselves or equally to something that our users might give us in terms of feedback, and just try to determine, like, if we did this, like, are we going to be, increasing the top line of revenue? Are we going to, like, maybe make for a better, like, brand experience, like maybe better, like, online experience? And if it doesn't significantly impact one of those, we might table it for, a month later down the line, or, put it to, we use Asana as, like, our task management tool, and maybe check in after like a few months. But we really, as a small team for us, we really focus on prioritizing the tasks that we know will be game changers. And, I think it's all about prioritization in the beginning, just because, you're a small team, you can only do so much. And if you don't really understand, like, who your audience is and who you're really targeting, it makes it really challenging to do everything well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things that so many entrepreneurs don't get is just because something is a good thing to do, changing the way that button looks, doesn't mean it should be your priority right now.
Exactly.
Excellent. Now, you said that you and your co-founder are not technical. Is that
Correct.
An advantage or a disadvantage?
I would say depends on the company you're building. I have a good friend that always said that the company you start should be one that you could get hired at yourself. And I think that makes a ton of sense. I personally, and not to say that it's not possible, but I personally would not start a new app company. Like, I wouldn't try to create Snapchat, for instance, because I'm not technical. I'm not going to really understand the technology behind it, and specifically how to scale Snapchat.
That would be a technology company. I don't think TalkWigg is a technology company, right?
Exactly. So I think the nice thing about focusing on e-commerce is that it's really driven by sales and marketing, which we do understand, which we're very, very good at. So I think I would say I would prioritize having a sales and marketing background for an e-commerce company. But I think it just depends on what type of company you're trying to build, whether you need to be technical or not, if that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. Great advice. How do you deal with inventory and fulfillment and all that stuff that just kind of makes my head spin?
That's a great question. So basically, we typically, with the featured sales, the nice thing is that because it's a limited time, like, sale. It's for 2 weeks. We typically handle fulfillment. It's all batched orders. So we'll work with a partner. They'll either send it to our warehouse and then we ship it out to the customer, or they'll actually handle the entire fulfillment and go directly to our customers. And then for some of our best sellers, we are carrying inventory as well, just to reduce shipping time and friction, specifically for the products that we know move very quickly as well.
Excellent. What's next for TalkWigg?
Next for TalkWigg is, I think our focus right now is increasing our selection of products. So bringing on more and more brands, and at the end of the day, building a lot of great partnerships. We're in touch with a few publications and everything else, or publishers out there that will be kind of bringing on basically strategic partners to help drive traffic, and then it's a great way for them to monetize their following.
Absolutely. What's next for Fernando?
For Fernando, I am actually moving down to Santa Monica in January.
Cool.
So I'm pretty excited. My business partner is down there. And LA is specifically a great place for e-commerce, just a ton of talent, ton of great companies down there. I'm actually really, really excited to be moving down there.
Cool. So it's interesting. You and your partner have been operating in two metro areas that are, about 3 hours apart?
By flight, it's about an hour. Driving, maybe 5.5, 6.
Okay. So how has it worked out thus far to be running a company with a co-founder that's in a different city?
That's a great question. There's definitely advantages and disadvantages to it. Advantage is, naturally, we can focus a lot easier because we're working individually. And then, we kind of we'll have, we can hire people from both cities, which is really nice, and then meet with people in both cities as well. So we're getting a bunch of advice from e-commerce players in both cities for talent, for everything. We basically doubled our pool of available resources. Cool. I would say disadvantage, obviously, communication is never the same if it's not face to face. And I would say it's interesting. There's a lot of pluses and minuses. I think at the end of the day, we decided as a team that it made for us personally, it would make sense to be in the same city, get an office together, and then warehousing would be significantly cheaper in Los Angeles. So I decided to make the move.
Excellent. Fernando, how do you define success?
I would say that I define success by, achieving whatever you set out as what makes you happy.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I don't know if there's very many better metrics than, I guess not solidified metrics, but if you're happy, I would say that you can achieve that. That's definitely successful in my book.
Excellent. Fernando, what's the last piece of advice that you'd want to leave with our listeners who are probably thinking, wow, what this guy's done is pretty cool, and I'd like to do something like that too?
Yeah, I would say I would just do it. Figure out whether it's, starting a company or traveling for a year, whatever it may be. I would figure out what it's going to take, how much money you'll need, what you'll need specifically to do it, and set a timeline, and hold yourself to a budget or whatever you need to do to accomplish that specific thing that'll make you happy. Starting a company, if you realize it's going to cost you $20,000, maybe you can save $1,000 a month, and then set a really strict timeline where you need to save $1,000 each month until you can kind of take the plunge and start that company.
Excellent advice. Fernando, where can we go to get more information about you and TalkWigg?
You can always, of course, visit TalkWigg.com. Shoot me an email anytime at Fernando@TalkWigg. And then I'm also on Twitter at FM Campos.
We will link all of that up below the show. Fernando, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing all of your hard-earned advice and some of your tips for success with us. And I wish you the best with TalkWigg and everything else that you do.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jeff. It was great chatting with you.
What a bunch of really great business and marketing lessons that Fernando gave us there. I think the neatest thing that he told us about was the tactic that they used to get in front of their potential customers, which they thought was a subset of Apple customers, and they went out and passed out those flyers. I think that's it's really simple. There's nothing super crazy or complicated about that. It was just a very simple way to say, okay, we think that this is what our customer looks like. Oh, and here's a place where there's gonna be a bunch of them. Let's go there and expose our product to them. Very, very simple, but it was very, very effective for them. And not only did it get them some exposure for the company, it also got some exposure through Inc. magazine, and that article is linked up below the show. So really cool stuff. Love what Fernando is doing, and really appreciate him coming on the show and sharing this great advice. And speaking of quitting your job and starting a business, if you're ready to do that and you want some help, that's what we're here for on How to Quit Working. That's what How to Quit Working is all about. It's not just about talking to successful people. It's really about helping you to quit your job and start a business, and that is why I bring these great inspirational people on. But just listening to stories isn't going to do it. You got to actually roll up your sleeves and make it happen, and that's why we're now offering How to Quit Working coaching. Heather Osgood is our How to Quit Working coach, and she has 15 years of experience as an entrepreneur, and she wants to help you quit your job. She wants to be there to hold your hand and guide you and help you avoid the pitfalls and find the sort of the water slides. Business is it's kind of like chutes and ladders. There's chutes and there's ladders. You got to climb up some of the ladders to get to the chutes, and Heather will help you find those. So go to howtoquitworking.com/coaching to get more information about How to Quit Working coaching, and then come back and join me for another amazing episode of the How to Quit Working show in just a couple days.
Thanks for joining us on the How to Quit Working show. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another amazing person just like you, who is now living the ultimate life of freedom and doing it on their terms. If you want to learn how to quit working and get these episodes delivered directly to you, visit howtoquitworkingshow.com.